Before we get into it, majority of the non-biblical related research comes from this article by the Comic Book Herald published by John Galati on October 15, 2019. And the comic book footage rule comes from Comics Explained along with some supplementary material. Felt like putting this out there because if this was a college research paper, this whole thing minus a biblical perspective flair of explanations will be marked as plagiarism. Link to all sources are in the description. But let's get into it. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think of what is your favorite superhero based on the superpower. For me, it will be Black Bolt because of the power of his voice. That is my personal favorite superpower out of all superheroes. Sadly, they did him dirty in the Inhuman show, but let us know what is yours in the comments below. Some of you might have been thinking of telepathy based on Jean Grey or Professor X because of their ability to read minds. According to the Marvel Wiki, telepathy is a psionic ability to read and control the minds and thoughts of humans, animals, and other sentient beings, and to transfer information from one mind to another without the aid of physical communication. A person that has this ability is called a telepath. But what if I were to tell you that telepathy in the Marvel Universe actually follows a very key spiritual law regarding the mind and the way Satan and his agents operate in our lives? Because contrary to the common definitions and even the one I just read for you from the Marvel Wiki, telepaths can't actually read your mind nor make you do something unwilling the way we commonly think about it from our favorite shows. You see, in the Marvel Universe, all people exist in two places. First in the physical world or normal world, and second in the mental space of the astral plane, also referred to as the spirit world or spiritual realm. Any given person's thoughts, memories, emotions, and other mental activity all exist in this ethereal place of existence. It's like an internet connection with a download depositing new information into the cloud of the astral plane, as in your thoughts going out, and an upload. That information being transmitted to your real world body, as in those thoughts materializing into your actions. According to Marvel, this is where everyone's identity or self exists. Marvel states that for 99% of the population, the astral plane is inaccessible. They don't know it's there, they aren't aware of the whole upload and download thing, aka thoughts going up and thoughts coming in. The most they may have experienced is a nightmare in a flash, trance state, or coma. But for the 1%, these are those that have access to the astral plane, either through telepathy, magic, or genetic ability. Only God and people with the Infinity Mind Gem do have direct access to the brain in the Marvel Universe. When Professor X wants to read someone's mind, he must enter the astral plane and locate that person's astral self by following their thought streams, the upload and download thing mentioned earlier. From there, he has two options. Either manipulate their thoughts, memories, etc. by manipulating their thought streams, which is pretty much like adding or removing files during a transfer, or he can manipulate the astral plane itself to change the thought stream. Another thing to mention is that time in the astral plane doesn't move the way time in the real world moves. Time relative to the material plane is slowed down to a crawl when one enters the astral plane. This can be seen in Doctor Strange, where he and the Ancient One was having a conversation while they were able to see lightning literally forming. If you ever watched any of the Xmen shows or movies, then you may have heard the term psychic barriers mentioned a lot. What they are actually referring to is as a physical impediment in the astral plane itself, whether it may be psychic shields or helmets or many other things. Think of it like a VPN, where you're still connected to the internet, but you're masked from different ISPs and hackers getting in. I know that was not a VPN sponsorship segue. I mean, one day could be. Let's get back into it. To conclude on the background and source material knowledge context of this video, Marvel's astral plane is said to be a mix of multiple sources where the shared theme is that people are living bodily in one world, spiritually in the next. All this is to mean Marvel's version of telepathy is explicitly about the person's soul. The astral plane in Marvel is the home to an invisible version of every living person. You can say that it is a duplicate that holds fast to their hopes, fears, memories, and even their literal dreams. So the scene in particular that inspired this video was from the Gifted TV series when I watched it in January of 2021. Here's the clip.
No. They're not! They're lying to you! They're in your head!
Marcos, that's enough.
Don't let them do this to our family!
Marcos, don't do this. Marcos is stubborn, you know. He's not gonna give up.
Yes, I can see that. How'd he get free?
I know the thoughts in people's minds, but it's hard to overcome a feeling that strong.
When I heard this, my mind sparked as I connected it to something I was learning about at the time about the devil and the mind, which we would get into later in the video. For the sake of this video, I rewatched 8 out of the 13 X-Men movies excluding X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, along with the 2 Deadpool films and the New Mutants within the past week. Shout out to my boys Akio, Akil and Amari for accompanying me on this binge watching journey in the wee hours of the morning. Out of the 8 films, the 2 that stood out the most were X-Men 2 and Apocalypse when it comes to the portrayal of telepathy. Here are some noteworthy clips we will be looking at and getting into as we go along. Apocalypse was something else. Check back next Saturday for a Christian perspective breakdown of Apocalypse, as that video is currently in development and is slated for the next upload. Once that video is uploaded, we'll insert it into the end card sequence of this video, so you could watch that video right after you finish watching this video. One of the most iconic things linked to telepathy in the X-Men universe is Cerebro. The word Cerebro is derived from the Latin word cerebrum, which means brain. Cerebro is a complex ESP machine, where ESP means extrasensory perception. According to LifeScience.com, extrasensory perception is an unproven paranormal phenomenon in which people allegedly receive information or exert control over their environment in ways that they don't use the 5 senses, also known as a 6th sense or psi. ESP refers to a wide range of purported abilities including telepathy, mind reading, psychokinesis or telekinesis, moving objects without physical contact, and precognition, predicting the future. In the movies and the various X-Men animated series, Cerebro is primarily used as an enhancer to a telepath's ability, allowing them to push the bounds of their power to the maximum. It strengthens their brainwaves and it makes the user's brain work extremely quickly by speeding up the neurons in the user's brain. With the use of Cerebro, Professor X or any telepath can locate any living person and mutant on the planet as explained in these scenes.
These lights represent every living person on the planet. The white lights are humans. These are the mutants. Through Cerebro, I'm connected to them. And they to me. You see, Logan? We're not as alone as you think. Found the base about Fly Lake. There's nothing there. The broken line represents the path of the mutant who attacked the president. I've been finding it difficult to get a lock on him. Can't just concentrate on him. If I wanted to kill him, yes.
Only in X-Men Apocalypse was Professor X able to reach such a level of telepathy without the use of Cerebro due to Apocalypse enhancing his powers. Out of the 8 movies watched, only Apocalypse showcased and delved into the whole astral plane aspect of telepathy, while the rest of movies shied far away from it, not even having a single scene relating to the astral plane. I mean, the term astral plane was not even mentioned in Apocalypse, even though the movie's big climax scene took place in it between Charles, Apocalypse and Jean Grey. However, in the animated X-Men series, which I'll be referring to the 90s X-Men shows and the first 9 episodes of Wolverine and the X-Men, as I haven't watched the others, the astral plane is heavily incorporated into the show's plot. Here are some scenes.
Your power over this child ceases now, Farouk.
Ah, so the friend is a telepath. Then pit your powers against my trespasser. Because she is my property.
Farouk, but you were destroyed.
Only my flesh, my spirit lives as the Shadow King.
What do you want?
To see you wander aimlessly without a home. Now watch as I burn your precious Africa to the ground.
Brother, we must talk. I will meet you in our mind. The X-Men have brought the Ruby of Cyttorak to give you back your powers, to save your life.
What in? Then it will be you who finishes her.
Emma, what's happening?
He's exchanging bodies. Keep him out. He cannot survive without a host.
Whatever he wants.
Not if I stop him first.
Kid, I know you're fast, but how do you plan to...
The mountain.
What about it?
That is where the monster came from. It is a small cave now, but yesterday the opening was as big as the mountain.
No, sugar. He came from the astral plane somewhere. The astral plane opening. It's in the mountain.
And Mishnari can see it. We must drive the Shadow King back into the astral plane before it reseals itself.
He's not gonna go peaceful, and we don't even know where he is.
But I do.
Mishnari, no!
Refusing me, I shall make you suffer.
Here! Over here!
Full of nature I command you, bring forth thunder and lightning! Come on!
Yeah, a lot of battles and moments happen in the astral plane in that show. I mean, it's kinda insane to be honest. And to those that are familiar with Legion, yeah, we are not going there at all. I watched season 1 like years ago, tried to watch season 2 recently over Hulu, and didn't last the first couple minutes of episode 1. If you know, you know. So with all that covered, let's tie it all together and connect it from a biblical perspective, starting with relevant scriptures. And the first we'll be looking at is Genesis 3. Now the serpent was craftier than any other beast in the field that the Lord had made. He said to the woman that God actually say, "You shall not eat of any tree in the garden." And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die." But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. And she also gave to her husband who was with her, and he ate. In both the animated and comic book X-Men media, Apocalypse is commonly shown bestowing his selected horsemen with their powers via some sort of contact, whether it may be via an energy beam or actual physical touch or transfer of essence in some kind of way. It usually involves some kind of bestowing scene. However, in the X-Men Apocalypse movie, for his horsemen, while he did in fact have that same type of transfer for Psylocke, Storm, and Angel, for Magneto he had that same kind of transference but with an extra sort of manipulation added.
Feel the metal in the ground. Reach as deep as you can. You'll find you have the power to move the very earth itself.
Apocalypse did nothing but cunningly manipulate Magneto by placing various thoughts into Magneto's head to make him ponder on the circumstance at hand, while at the same time preying on his traumas to get him to freely unlock his Omega level mutant status, going from only being able to move metal to having complete control over the Earth's magnetic field. Tying it back to Genesis 3, we see that the serpent didn't take complete control of Eve's mind to make her do what she did. Eve moved on her own free will. All Satan did was cunningly place a thought on the table, setting bait, and Eve snatched it, causing the fall of man in the garden. Even when Apocalypse wanted to use Charles throughout the movie, it was not a matter of forcefully exerting himself onto him. Charles wanted the power. Apocalypse just manipulated his obsession for the power and the newfound high he was getting off of his newfound powers for what he wanted to accomplish. Even in X-Men 2, it wasn't a matter of complete control between Jason and Charles when Stryker wanted him to kill all mutants, so when Magneto switched it to destroy all humans. Even when Professor is using Cerebro, it isn't a matter of him just having free access to everyone's brain like those old yellow phone books. I mean, it's crazy how having your phone number in a book that everyone has access to was considered a norm back in the day to now that is like the most insane thing you could do. But I digress, let's get back to it. He is scanning through the spiritual world / astral plane to find exactly who he wants. This is seen also where Apocalypse uses Charles' astral self to find where they were hiding in the real world. Even down to Charles doing his insane feats of freezing entire malls and stopping people in their tracks, it is a matter of implanting thoughts into their minds, not a matter of complete control. Check out this scene from Comics Explained.
And so here's the question. If Charles Xavier wants to make that guy think something, how does he do that? Okay, so let's say this guy on the street corner is thinking, I wonder what it's like to be a dog. What would happen is Charles Xavier's mind, and being open to the astral plane, his mind would basically read through and it would isolate that guy's thought pattern, right? That guy's thought stream as it's radiating into the astral plane. Charles Xavier would find it, locate it, and then he would read it. And he would say, okay, so this guy's thought stream says he wants to know what it's like to be a dog. All right, that's how Charles Xavier picks up on it. Now the question becomes, what if Charles Xavier wanted to make that guy believe he was a dog, right? That guy says, I wonder what it's like to be a dog. And Xavier says, okay, let's make that happen. How does that work? What would happen is Charles Xavier, his own command, believe you're a dog, would leave his brain, travel into the astral plane and down the thought stream of that guy, right? I mean, a way out is a way in. So if he has thoughts leaving his brain, it makes sense you can have thoughts enter his brain. And so Charles Xavier's thoughts would go down that thought stream that guy has, it would enter into his mind and it would dominate all other thoughts. And his sole belief would be that he's a dog. He would believe it wholeheartedly. That's how Charles Xavier's telepathy works. Now,
Mark 8:31-33 reads, And he began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. And he said this plainly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and seeing his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, Get behind me, Satan, for you are not setting your mind on the things of God, but on the things of man. Although it says that Jesus was rebuking Peter, he did not address his rebuke to Peter, but rather Satan, because he knew the thought that came into Peter's mind was not of his own, but the devil. At times, we may all have moments where we randomly have thoughts that leave us like,
Wait, what?
It can be doubt, it can be fear, it can be suicide, it can be depression. It can be things that you know to yourself you ought not to be thinking, but it is suddenly the most overpowering thing in your mind. Sometimes starting as what we will call a fleeting thought, or a what if moment, which then becomes one that is being looped at the back of your mind constantly until you act upon it or cast it out. 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5 says, We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God and take every thought captive to obey Christ. Any thought that is contrary to the way of life that God calls us to live comes from one other source only, Satan and his agents. Regardless of whether or not you believe in God or you just sum it all up to be a bunch of myths and ideas that manage to somehow be passed on from generation to generation, or you muck it all up to be fiction, it doesn't change the fact that all these things covered in this video are literally following biblical principles and spiritual laws which govern and set the motion for everything we know about the mind and the various correlating aspects about it. This is why it is important to be careful of what you allow into your spirit, because it is via the things we watch, the music we listen to, the people we entertain, and many other factors in our lives is what will determine how easily it will be for any implanted fleeting thought to either be cast out or held captive by obeying Christ, or take root and manipulate our actions for ultimately the bad and our own detriment. It all starts with your decision of whether you are willing to accept the truth or not. It is only through Christ that we are able to fully resist the temptations and the implanted thoughts that will come into our minds. It ain't no charm, no helmet, no symbol, no psychic barrier, no bracelet, no necklace, no jewelry, no ritual, no hereditary item that was passed down your family line from generation to generation, and definitely not by your own will, but only through Jesus Christ, the one who gives us not a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. Okay, so that's it for this video, and we hope you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments if you did, along with who was your favorite superhero according to the superpower, along with your opinions, objections, and your perspectives. The next topic we will be tackling is none other than Apocalypse himself, because lines like these
Elohim, Shin, Ra.
But you can never strike gold!
are just perfect for a Christian perspective breakdown. So once that video is uploaded, it can be found in the end card of this video. But as always, remember, these videos are not to tell you what you can and cannot watch, as that is your decision to make, but it is so you simply no longer blindly consume.